Hi everybody, welcome back to my video, which is days 9, 10 and 11 of a cold turkey withdrawal from Sertraline, which is an SSRI, or as you may note, an antidepressant. And today I am going to be flipping the script a little bit. So initially I was doing what kind of symptoms I was experiencing through my withdrawal. However, at this point, although I say it's days 9, 10 and 11, it's technically around about day 15 because there was a 3-day lag before I started filming myself and documenting this. So essentially I'm kind of at the 2-week mark, and at this point it was the same as the previous times I've withdrew from Sertraline, which I've withdrew from Sertraline I think around about 3 times before this over a period of around about 10 years, maybe just slightly longer. And every time I withdraw from them cold turkey, so I've done it I think around 2 times. One time I tried to taper, but the other times I've just came off it. It's only taken around about 2 weeks until I would probably say I'm fully kind of back to normal, so to speak. So I think what's probably better to do today is actually just talk about what's kind of going well, I suppose, just because that'll give you a little bit of hope in terms of, you know, how fast this process can really be and how your life can kind of look once you're sort of off the medication, or at least with it being out of your system. Do just want to add as well though, as always, I'm not a doctor, so in most cases you will have to speak to your doctor before coming off any kind of antidepressant, and you will more than likely be recommended to taper rather than cold turkey off the medication. Again, just to kind of remind you, for me in the past it was always very hard tapering off the medication. Well, for the one time I did it, it was just much worse than the times I'd cold turkey before that. And that was because for me, it basically didn't change the severity of the withdrawal symptoms, it just elongated them. So I felt like my moods were all over the place a lot longer, and I also felt like it just made me sort of irritated, angry, frustrated, and it was very hard to kind of reconnect with people on a normal wavelength, so to speak, whilst I was kind of in that state. But it basically just got to the point for me where tapering didn't really make any sense. So, you know, that's my preference, that's how I deal with things best, and for some people it may be the opposite. I mean, you can of course have some severe long-term effects from withdrawing from any kind of antidepressant, so like I say, definitely speak to your doctor first. So yeah, I will just quickly address in terms of symptoms. At this point I'm basically not getting any symptoms. I feel very sort of within myself. My personality's completely back, my energy's back. My mood seemed to have stabilised as well now, which is very good. So for the last week it was a little bit up and down, but I could tell things were kind of petering out. But yeah, at this point I would say that I'm pretty much back to normal. The only thing that I do still get, and this is what I remember from previously withdrawn in the past, is that the brain zaps, especially for me, and it's probably the same for other people, they can last for months. They're not bad at this point, they're very diminished. In fact, I can barely feel them at all. But they're definitely there, and I remember when I came off them in the past, sometimes even after like 3, 4, 5, 6 months, I'd feel the odd brain zap that would kind of come and hit us occasionally. It wasn't repetitive, like where when you're withdrawn, you're kind of feeling it like every 5, 6 seconds or so. It basically would just be maybe one every hour, and then it would even just be maybe one a day or so. So yeah, I definitely expect the brain zaps to last a lot longer. But yeah, I feel like at this point it's just pointless for me to update you every 1 to 2 days now, because it's just going to be me basically saying, oh, I'm fine. And that'll become boring. You know, I want the videos that I'm releasing now going forwards to address more helpful topics and questions that people may have. So I'm going to be fleshing out some ideas and some questions and some topics to cover. The video frequency initially will not be as frequent as I've been doing them, because I need to flesh it out better and find a little bit of a format that works and helps people. But yeah, I think at this point it's probably better for me just to talk about what's going well since withdrawn from the medication. So what I will say is my energy's completely back to normal, so I'm not really fluctuating in terms of energy or moods. This means I can engage pretty much on a daily basis without feeling flat at any points or feeling too overly excited and stimulated. So it means I can plan my day very well without either needing to take a rest or to try and sort of calm myself down a little bit. I'm also making sure that I'm still going for my walks on a daily basis. I'm getting my steps in. I tend to aim for around about 10k steps. I do have a very rigorous gym schedule as well, so I do usually go around 5 times a week. So I do a lot of resistance training and things like that. I've also came off the back of dealing with 8 months of long COVID, so I'm also off the medication now as well, and moving from that disabled disposition to what I would consider fully being able to reintegrate back into society. It means that I'm starting to look for jobs as well, and I've also resumed my driving, which to be honest is a case of better late than never. I am wanting to go further afield, go on camping trips, just drive around, see the sights and things like that. I think having a car is kind of important with that. I've always just been a cyclist, or more recently I've had an electric bike for a couple of years as well. And it is great, and it helps to get around, and it's low impact on the environment. But yeah, definitely nice to be getting a car. I've also been on a couple of dates, so I am single, but I'm finding that with having more connection to my personality, I've got a greater kind of emotional space and bandwidth, so to speak. It is a lot easier for me to connect with people now, have a bit of a laugh, have a bit of a joke, feel a lot more energized, not in a sort of manic way, but just a very stable, consistent, in tune with everything type of energy, which is great. And as I mentioned in my last video, I'm feeling that energetically people are receiving me better. I can just tell from the way people look at us, they smile a lot more. I get a lot more glances and a lot more engagement just from people, even when walking around the shops or at the gym. I'm striking up conversation, having chats with people, and it just feels fun, you know, to be myself again. So things are looking very good off the medication, and I hope it does inspire you, because I think a lot of people go on them because they do genuinely need them when they start them. However, because it becomes a bit of a comfort zone, you almost just rely on them, and some people just never get off them because they don't really think about it, they just kind of accept it. But to me, the benefits have been immeasurable. Even just in the space of 2 weeks, I'm feeling very, very good. So yeah, to kind of underscore this, I would say it's just more lifestyle improvements. Everything is improved whilst being off the medication, and it makes sense because you're not in this subdued state anymore where you can't really feel anything, you can't enjoy the music you listen to, you don't really feel much interest in the TV shows you're watching, you don't pay attention to the friends you're talking to properly. So when you're off the medication, just getting that whole spectrum back is just, it's just magic, it's just amazing. And it's crazy looking back, that contrast of like a 4-year blur. It's just horrendous to think that I didn't even attempt to come off them, which in a way I'm probably being a little bit harsh on myself. You know, I went through the ordeal of dealing with long COVID, and being medicated on Sertraline probably did help us deal with those things. I don't think it was a case that I wouldn't have been able to deal with them, but it definitely eased the burden there, so to speak. And another positive update as well is that I dropped out of my level 2 joinery qualification. I was doing like woodworking, carpentry, I was building furniture, I was doing practical things like learning skirting and first fix joinery, second fix joinery, things like that. And because I'm feeling much, much better, and I was really frustrated that I had to quit that. That was due to the long COVID, of course. I was disabled for, say, about 8-9 months. But also just with me having a better mindset and a better mood, and I'm feeling a lot more focused on my goals, especially with that full spectrum of energy and that emotional space now. I'm really, really wanting to get back into things. So yeah, I'm looking to finish my level 2 in joinery. I'm going to finish off my driving. I'm getting out there on the dating scene. And overall, I just feel more in tune with life. So I'm just really, really happy again. And like I say, I hope this serves as inspiration. I know that it's very easy for doctors to medicate people, even when they're just going through a bit of a brief stint. You know, I'm not against antidepressants. Like I say, I've used them a few times because I have been at some pretty low states, so to speak. But I do believe that comes from not having a good understanding of philosophical concepts, or not being aware of certain mindfulness practices. I mean, like I've said in some of my other videos, the best way to look at pain and tribulation and struggles is that there is a lesson to learn when you go through those processes. But also, it's good just to be an observer rather than being consumed by whatever's happening in your body. You know, like I say, if you feel something bad, yeah, it feels uncomfortable to the body, but you don't have to identify with that. Let me just stabilize my camera there. It's blowing around in the wind. And it is a lovely day. Just enjoying the breeze. Yeah, you don't have to identify with that. You can sort of say to yourself, you know, I'm feeling this uncomfortable feeling, but it's neither good, it's neither bad, it's just a feeling, and it will pass. And you probably know yourself, you know, whether you suffer from anxiety, panic attacks, or you've been in depressed states, which I know they can last a little bit longer, but for the most part, those things do pass, especially when they kind of hit their peak, which can sometimes be on a night where you're feeling isolated. They will still pass. Yeah, you might be awake for a few hours, and I know that kind of sucks because it interrupts your schedule and it can affect things like work. But not identifying yourself with those feelings, not becoming the feelings, you remain an observer, and that robs the power from those feelings. And I think that's the mindset and approach I'm going to take in future. And of course I will update you, because in the past, of course, I've been back on the tablets after maybe a year or two where things started to fall apart a little bit. But I didn't really have that kind of mindset in the past, and I didn't have techniques to kind of save me from spiraling. So I'm really hoping these kind of techniques that I've learned through the ordeal of becoming disabled out of nowhere with chronic long COVID, and also just being on and off medication and withdrawn and things like that, gives me the power now. And of course my age as well, the experience. I'm hoping that it gives us the wisdom to make sure that I never need to be on antidepressant medication again. In terms of my diet, again, I'm still going to maintain that. I think I'm just going to embrace that for life now. I'm going to make the kind of treats and things like that more of an occasional thing for like holidays and special occasions, birthdays, stuff like that. So I'm really sticking to my diet. That's very fresh meat, chicken thighs, beef mince, steak. I do occasionally have fish. It's not my favourite, but it is very healthy. I'm also eating a lot of veg. Again, as I mentioned, stuff that I really like is turnip, carrots, broccoli, parsnips, boiled potatoes. I'm not afraid of fats either, so frying your food in beef dripping is much better for you. Olive oil is pretty good as well, although it does tend to have a low smoke point, so if you want to fry things on a high temperature, beef dripping can be a little bit better. I also do use a lot of real butter as well, especially on a baked potato, delicious. So again, not afraid of very fresh fats and things that are nutritionally sound. And of course I do love my fruit, so I've got a bit of a sweet tooth, or I certainly did in the past. I used to eat a lot of cakes and things like that, mainly just because I enjoy coffee so much. I like to have a coffee and a cake, but I flipped the script on that and I'm eating pretty much just fruit the majority of the time or throughout the day, and that keeps my sweet tooth at bay. So stuff like your blueberries, your apples with the peel on, because they have quercetin, which if you're like me, if you're allergic to pollen and you have hay fever and stuff like that, it can actually help through the summer to eat apples with peels on. I also love my cherries, especially good quality ones. They're very juicy, very flavourful. Love a bit of melon as well. So yeah, overall it's just a holistic approach to life now. It's a holistic approach to food. Of course, taking my supplement stack, which just to quickly run through pretty much for the last time, but I will do an overview of the withdrawal process, and I'll do a bit of a guide for you. It's almost like an ultimate guide, so I can condense the information and show you some of the benefits. I'll also be doing some other question topics and things that people might want answering, or they may want to know the answer to, especially in regards to wellness, diet, recovery, symptoms and things like that. So stay tuned as well. Like I say, I'm going to be fleshing that out in terms of the video, so it might not be as regular for maybe the next couple of weeks. I'll start to increase the pace of which I'm doing that. So yeah, just as a reminder, I've been taking creatine, L-glutamine, been taking N-acetylcysteine, I'm taking vitamin D, vitamin K2, and I'm also taking algae oil as well, and that's for the omega-3s, which is the DHA and EPA fatty acids as well. So all of those things are very well proven to be good, especially on a daily basis. I would of course recommend speaking to your doctor, because those things can of course interact with different medications, and it may not be suitable depending on your disposition if you have any kind of long-term illnesses. But yeah, they're very cheap, they're very effective, and of course they're very holistic. They can be beneficial for your entire body, whether it's from the brain, whether it's from your mitochondria and your energy production, whether it's to healing the gut, and just removing simple things like brain fog if you get that. I mean, I got a lot of that through COVID, but I know a lot of people do experience that. So yeah, generally speaking, they help to bring down inflammation and generally boost the body. So yeah, that's pretty much going to be the final update in terms of these series of withdrawal videos, but I will of course be talking about that more in the future, but more in a general sense rather than a sort of updated series. So yeah, for now I really appreciate you guys watching, as I know it can be a bit of a tough process to go through, and certainly with these daily or twice daily updates and things like that, it's not always easy to glean bits of information, as it can become a little bit similar. I'm also working on my website still, so that'll probably be in the next month or two perhaps, just because I've been incredibly busy with different things and obviously coming back online with my life. But I will be dropping that in a future video, so stay tuned for that. That's going to be a one-stop shop for different resources in terms of diet, wellness, recovery, symptoms and things like that. And I'll even have like a gallery of foods that I eat which are very beneficial and nutritionally sound. And I may also start doing things in terms of fitness, and that'll be more just from a functional point of view rather than that kind of gym bro perspective, which, I mean, I do follow some gym bros, but yeah, for me, I'd rather address it from more of an informational point of view. But yeah, I hope you've found these videos entertaining. I've really enjoyed doing them with you, and I'm glad I'm at the point where I feel like I'm pretty much recovered and back online now. As always, if you could, I really would appreciate if you can like, subscribe and comment down below. None of you have really commented so far, but I know you are watching, so I definitely want to hear from you guys what your experiences are with antidepressants, whether you've tapered off them, whether you've cold turkeyed, or whether you're still on them. I mean, I have family and friends who still use them, so I understand that for most people they are beneficial. But yeah, I definitely want to engage with you, so if you'd please have a little chat, I'll definitely respond to you as quick as I can. But yeah, other than that, it's been an absolute pleasure. I hope you have a fantastic day, a fantastic week, and I will bid you farewell.